right, so next up, Sergey. Overall technique and texturing is what he's interested in. So we've got what, a handful of posts here. We've got some create a location, still windmill. So this is Unreal. So freelance environment artist. I'm just gonna kind of scroll through these pretty quickly, and just kind of see if I can get some feels on stuff. I'm sorry if I just hop around. Okay, so indie game. This is 3 years ago. So this is 3 years ago. I think actually, let me look at the. So if that's 3 years ago, I would actually just remove this. I don't think I'm going to look at this just because it won't show a true representation of where you are now. This one's 2 years ago. And I guess I can look at the modeling just to kind of see what you're thinking with your, like, how you put stuff together. The only real reason I think keeping something pretty old on your portfolio, like I've got some really old stuff on my portfolio, I probably should just remove it. I'll put it into a blog or something, a blog post. The only reason I like to have them is sometimes when someone wants to see your most recent stuff, but then they want to go back and compare it to like where you were 3 years ago, which a blog can do as well. But this windmill looked pretty good. The details are a little thin, and some of the material definition through the roughness and whatnot is kind of detracting from the overall quality of the modeling. Don't be afraid to add enough geo to like hide the edges. Like if we, here I've got, okay, so I've got this scene, right? Let's just dupe this over here. So if we look at this guy and I edit this, let's kill the pass through. So when you look at it from a silhouette, can we do flat? Yeah. So from a flat mode, oh man, hang on here. There we go. Okay, so in flat, you can see that there's one edge, a second edge, right? 1, 2, 3. If I go in and edit this, and we'll grab this edge here and just bevel this and turn it up. So depending on how big this is, so like, make sure we're single, random, flat, no shadows. There we go. So if this object is quite small, then that edge count's totally fine. But as the object gets bigger, you will start to see this stepping. And you want to avoid having too much stepping. So do not be afraid to add enough to negate that problem. Because you can always go in and remove, right? You can go in and grab every other one if you wanted to and remove them to lower the resolution if needed. That's what level of detail is for as well. So LODs and whatnot. Back cap there. What am I doing? I need to just put this back to where I had stuff. There we go. All right. Let's keep moving on though. So we go through. Let's look at these tires. Subdivision, subsurface modeling. Cody5 asking about, do I do a lot of manual LODs? So while I can't talk specifically about where I, like, in my current work environment, but I can say that I haven't made, I think I've made maybe 10 manual LODs in the last, I don't know, 7 years. AAA tends to use a lot of automatic poly reduction tools. But if it comes to a certain scenario, it can be better to manually LOD. So it's back and forth, right? Man, this stuff's really hardcore because like you went for it. There's actually a tutorial that I think Matthew O'Halloran did. Let me just drag this a flashbang. He was actually just on the podcast as well, if anyone's curious. Actually, last night. Oh. So that was pretty cool. Check that out if you have not. Okay, so we go to his blog. Is it in here? Let me just scroll really quickly through here. Yes, he has it. All right. Okay, I'm going to copy the image address. I'm going to put it in chat there. And then we will look at it in here. So his approach is to just make this pattern and then dupe it along the surface. But yeah, definitely read into that. It's pretty cool. That's just for the tread, of course. Because when we look at this, there's the inside of the wheel here. That takes some work, some love. The overall result looks pretty nice. And man, when the tires get this big, that kind of soft, rubbery edge is the real deal. Waffle, what's up? How you doing? Cody, hopefully I answered your question all right. Overall, this is pretty good. Very technical. There's a lot of details in here that maybe don't need to be in order to sell it. I don't know if you were baking this out either. So tool bag, you must have baked this out. Yeah, see how small those details are in there? Sometimes you just need to imply that there's something there, and then you're good to go. Let's get this back to normal size. Awesome that you got a 80 level as well. These are always really good to have. If you're planning on going abroad, specifically to the US, I think maybe Canada as well, it's much easier to get a work visa if you have published work. So articles, magazines, anything that you can get like published work, use that on your CV in order to help you land work visas. I think globally it's just a good idea. It's another way of proving your skill and your quality and like how the community in the professional world feels about your work. They're willing to put you in magazines and on articles and whatnot. So these materials are pretty interesting. I feel like, so this is a year ago. I feel like they're kind of suffering a little bit from a lot of noise. Sorry, I'm scrolling around like crazy. So there's a lot of noise. This one's not too bad. It's pretty soft. And I think maybe if the roughness between the two materials was better, or when I say better, I mean has more range to it. So maybe one of them is rougher than the other. I really like the elements, the smaller pieces here that are not as small as the dirt or sand. This one is really suffering from just being really busy. And I guess you don't have to have normal map information or displacement for all of the little grooves in the wood. Maybe if it's paint that's chipping and whatnot, then it starts to have that kind of look and feel. Let's see what else is going on in here. This is pretty cool. This is really crunchy, just so you know. Crunchy can be bad. It can be good. There's some edge highlighting in the wood crates here. Oh, my mouse is getting low on battery. Anyways, sorry. This is looking a lot like Borderlands with the way that the edges are being emphasized. So with all of the damage and kind of detail that's happening on the surfaces, make sure that you kind of take it easy when it comes to how strong the normal map information is. Because you can imply a lot just through the albedo and the roughness. You don't have to normal map every single kind of detail, because then you start to get into this territory where everything is really noisy. You got to be really careful with that. And then again, think about the variety of roughness from piece to piece. Like making sure that the metals kind of separate themselves from the wood, and the wood paint is separate from the exposed wood. And the over sharpening of materials has to be lowered as well, because it's very, very it becomes hard to look at for a long period of time, and that's kind of that balance I'm always talking about, where it's 30-70, where it's high fidelity or high detail information, 30% of the image, and then the other 70% is kind of areas for your eyes to rest. So this would be an eye rest area. This should be an eye rest area, but a lot of the information's starting to make it pretty busy. These could be pretty eye rest heavy areas as well, but the surface is very coarse in the normal. So you want to watch out for that stuff. This could be smoother as well. Maybe leaving that kind of noisy roughness to the in the normal map to like where the paint is actually chipped away. And see, actually, when you turn all the materials off, it's not too bad. Like, these guys are so rough that they look like maybe they've been underwater for a while. But in general, it's not too intense. The bags in the back are really heavy again. So maybe it's also the contrast in the albedo is really kind of pushing that noise over the top. So just some things to keep in mind. This stuff's a little bit better as far as like the kind of noise distribution. It's not as intense. It's still pretty intense, but it's not as bad. Maybe chat will want a link to this. There we go. This one's really nice. See these areas where it's nice and smooth? I think the only thing you could do to push this a little bit further is getting a roughness value where the nails can kind of separate themselves from the wood a little bit more. And then the paint having a different roughness, more so from the exposed wood. Again, so there's just another separation. This one feels really, really worn. Like, these don't feel separate because of the way that everything is kind of aligned. Man, crazy. It's so cool looking at people's work. So this is again suffering from, it looks like it's the same materials that you're looking at. Really, really high noise heavy, detail heavy materials is not really allowing the eyes to rest anywhere. It's like this type of wear and tear, like what I would do for this upper area here is like, I put some jeans on it, no. So like this upper area here, is make a version where the paint, where it's pristine, right? And then make a version that's chipped away like this. And then either with a mask or like painting with vertex color is bringing in the chipped version so that you can kind of tell a story and author the damage more so than just kind of let it be everywhere. So keep that in mind, and then be really careful with like this amount of heavy, crunchy noise. It's really strong. And then when you have interactions like this, definitely use that as an opportunity to kind of get the drip going. You get all this stuff going down here. So you can just show the interaction that's occurring, right? Because this will go a long ways for you. So definitely keep that in mind. And yeah, focus on maintaining the balance of areas of rest to like to the high fidelity information. Like the highest detailed stuff should probably be the windows and like where this rope stuff is. Quilly Willy, what's up, man? How you doing? But yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing to focus on right now is just getting that the detail toned down and really trying to balance out all that information so that the eyes have an area to rest. Nando, what's up, man? But yeah, nice portfolio. I look forward to seeing some more of your work, and definitely just work on separating out the materials through their roughness, and then making sure that your materials aren't too busy so that your viewers have areas for your eyes to just kind of like chill for a minute. Again, the ratio is 70-30, so 70% relaxation, 30% high detail. I think you'll see it a lot, actually. Just a quick little look at Matt's portfolio again, just because it's a good example. Let's see if we can pick one where it's ultra clear. I guess this one would be pretty clear. It's like the fidelity here and here and here is very high, and in here. So remember, those are the areas where the detail is really, really high. And then the rest of the areas are pretty simplified. Like you can add a little bit of information in the roughness and the albedo, but you're leaving it pretty calm so that it's easy for your eyes to take it in. Like these areas are quite flat. There's a little bit of detail here, but it's pretty blank. And you see, it's interesting because in the back he really exposes it all, which normally I would say is not, it doesn't have that artistic ratio, but then this comes more into design. Like if this was a machine that's either supposed to protect people or fight, all of the stuff should be protected, right? So the front's going to be pretty armored and flat, whereas the back is much more exposed and there's a lot of information. But yeah, look at this close-up. This close-up, you can see that there's not a lot of detail. Like most of the detail is right here. I would say the ratio in this image is probably even lower than 30-70. It's probably more like 20-80. Anywho, onward. Onward and onward. Thanks for sharing your portfolio. We're going to get to the last one, and then we'll get to the Discord critiques. All right. Be right back.